Okay, so we're going to start the Mishnah on the bottom of 45b, where the Mishnah discusses the procedure of the Eglah Arufa. Niftaru Ziknei Yerushalayim. Once the elders of Jerusalem who had come out, the Sanhedrin had come out, either 3 or 5, depending on whether you follow Pascha like Rabbi Shimon or Rabbi Yehuda, they come out and they measure the town, and they measure which is the closest town. And then they leave. And then after they do that, they go. And then the elders of the city that were closest go out. Then they bring a calf that had never pulled a yoke. And this calf is not going to be disqualified with a defect, with a physical defect. And they take it down into a nachal eitan. The nachal eitan is either an area that was never used before, a hard area, or maybe it's a fast-flowing river. That's what Rambam says. And eitan kamashma'o, eitan is like it literally means it is kosher. It is hard. And afal pisha eitan, but still, even though it wouldn't be hard, it would still be kosher. Meaning to say that this is lechatchila that it's supposed to be a nachal eitan, but technically speaking, anywhere you did it, it's kosher. And you take a cleaver, a kofitz, this type of knife they used to chop meat. You take it onto the back of the neck of this calf, and that place where you did this is from now on going to be prohibited to sow and to work the land. And you need to comb the flax there, or nakar shamavanim, and to chisel out the stones. Ziknei osa ir, the elders of that town, rochatzin esidein b'mayim. The elders of that town, after they do this, they wash their hands with water. B'makom arifa shel eglah, in the place where the neck of the calf was broken. V'omrim, and they say, Yadeinu lo shafchas adam hazeh. They say, our hands have not spilled this blood. Ve'inenu lo ra'u, and our eyes have not seen this man weave. V'chial daltenu, says the Mishnah, did you really think for a moment? V'chial daltenu alta sheziknei bezin shofchei damimim. Do you really think that the elders of this town spilled the blood? Elo shelo ba'al yadeinu upitaranu lo ra'inu v'inachnu. But rather, he didn't come to our hands, and we didn't send him away without escorting him. And we didn't see him leaving, and we let him go without escorting him. We're going to learn here about the mitzvah of levayas orchim, of having to escort your guests. You're never just going to let your guests leave on your own without walking them out. On the top of 46a, v'kohanim omrim, and the kohanim were there say, kaper la'amcha Yisrael asher pradisa Hashem, v'al titein dam naki b'kerav amcha Yisrael. And the Kohanim were there say, atone for your people Israel that you redeemed God, and don't put the innocent blood amongst the midst of your people Israel. And then the rest of the pasuk is v'nichaper la'amadam, and the blood shall be an atonement for them. And so the Mishnah continues, lo yitzrichen omar v'nichaper la'amadam. You don't need to say that the blood should be an atonement for them. El ruach hakodesh mivasartan. It's just that's not for the Kohanim to say. That's the Torah telling us, when you do this ritual, Adam the blood will be an atonement for them. Says the Gemara. So why do we say that a physical defect, does not disqualify by an eglah, by this calf, by the eglah rufa, the mum post of the eglah? The mum should disqualify the eglah rufa mikal v'chomer. Should be disqualifying it from this Kal V'chomer argument. Uma para, just like the red heifer. Yeah, you had a question, Bill?
I don't want to take your time because I know there's a lot to go through, but is there any explanation about how the Eglah Arufa ceremony actually works in atonement? Is it that you are, giving up your resources?
So Gemara is going to discuss this. The Gemara is going to discuss the symbolism of it on today's staff. The Gemara is going to discuss the symbolism of how the Eglah Arufa atones. So the Gemara asks the question: let this defect, it should disqualify the calf from a kal v'chomer, or just like a red heifer. Shein hashanim poslos, but it doesn't become disqualified. It doesn't become disqualified if it becomes too old, but still mum posel, but still the physical defect disqualifies it. Egla calf shashanim poslos, but once it becomes over a year, it's disqualified. Eino din shiam mum posel, but for sure the physical defect should disqualify it. So we should say a physical defect should disqualify a red heifer from a egla rufa, a kal v'chomer from a red heifer. Where it says no shani asam, the case of the red heifer is different because it says the amarka asher ein ba mum. It can't have a mum. Asher ein ba mum. Ba mum posel by the red heifer, the mum disqualifies it. Ein mum posel by egla, but the mum does not disqualify by the egla rufa. So the Gemara says, El me'ato, if that's the case, will you shar avodos poslos ba? Well, if that's the case, then all the other types of work should not disqualify by the paraduma. Only the yoke itself should be disqualified because it says ba. But we learn, Rashi explains, from a kal v'chomer from the egla rufa. Because by the egla rufa it says ashalo uvad ba ko avodo, which means ko avodos. So if ba is limiting it, we shouldn't learn out anything from the egla rufa. It should just be the yoke disqualifies the red heifer and not anything else. So the Gemara says, Alama Rav Yehuda Marav. Why does Rav Yehuda say in the Rav? And that if you put a bag of a sack of on top of the red heifer, pesula, it's going to disqualify it. And the egla rufa, it's going to be disqualified only once you pull it. So the Gemara explains, no, shani para, no, the reason why the case of the para aduma is different, that we're going to learn out what disqualifies it by working from the egla rufa is the alfinan all me egla. We're going to learn out the word all that appears by an egla rufa. It says by the egla rufa shelo mashkaba all, and by the red heifer it says shelo allow all. And so therefore we say that we were going to learn out that also the other work disqualify the paraduma from the egla rufa. The Gemara says, well, if that's the case, egla nami teisi all mi para. So if that's the case, we should learn out from the egla rufa also by comparing it to the paraduma that it should be disqualified with a blemish, just like the paraduma is learned out from the Gzera Shava. Gemara explains, egla nami teisi all mi para. The Gemara says, hamir rachmana ba. But no, so the Torah says the word ba by the paraduma, to say only by the paraduma does it disqualify by a blemish and not the egla rufa. The Gemara says be'egla nami ksiv ba, but by the egla it also says the word ba. It says you should take the egla spakar asher lo ubad ba. So it says be'egla nami ksiv ba. So the Gemara says ha'hu mi ba'ile l'miyute kachim. So it's coming to tell us that it's coming to teach us, this law is coming to teach us, it's teaching us that, so this law is teaching us the word ba that appears by egla rufa is coming to tell us that it doesn't apply to kachim, meaning to say we might have thought from egla rufa that they're disqualified if they had been worked. And so therefore we're saying from the word ba that appears by egla rufa that if the kachim animal has been worked, it still doesn't disqualify it from being used as a sacrifice in the temple. We might have thought that we're going to learn out a kal v'chomer from the egla rufa. Ma egla she'ein mum posel ba avoda poselos, but just like the egla rufa, which is not disqualified by a physical defect, the avoda, the service, ma egla, just like an egla rufa, which is not disqualified with a physical defect, avoda poselos ba, if you work, it is disqualified. Kachim shemun poselos ba, kachim, which is a sacrificial animal, which is disqualified by a defect. Eino din shavoda poselos, but for sure it should be the case that if you work the animal, you can't bring it as a sacrifice. So we might have thought to say that. So therefore, Ba tells us we don't say that. The Gemara says, but we could have broken that kal v'chomer. Iko mifrach. We could have broken that kal v'chomer by saying mala agala shekain shan and pozos. But egla is totally different from kachim, because if it's a year or two old, if it's older than a year, it can't be brought. So how can you learn a kal v'chomer from there to kachim? So the Gemara says atu kachim yueked the possible. But there are certainly sacrifices which are dependent on the years. So it's jakra. No, we need the pasuk. So therefore, we need the pasuk for those kachim which are disqualified, but depending upon the years. Gemara says, "V'kachim the pasuk bu avoda meyachanafka." Is this the source from the fact that it says ba by the egla arufa? Is this the source that kachim are not disqualified if you work them? If you work the animal, it's not disqualified. May awesome nafka. Don't we learn that from the fact that it says in the pasuk about the kachim? If it is an iveres, a blind, or shavor, or charotz, these are disfit, or yavelos, or garav, or yolefes, lo sakrivu elu Hashem. These are the physical defects, which means you can't bring them. Elo yatom makriv. You can't bring them as these physical defects. Avotam makriv. Kachim shenevda by an avoda, but you can bring the kachim even though it did the work, even though it's been worked. So isn't that the source? The source is not from Eglarut. The Gemara says no, it's drech. No, you need both psukim. Salka daita chamina. You might have thought to say hani mila hecha de avabayin avodas heter. That where do we say you can bring it if it did work that was permitted? But avodas iser. But if it did work that was prohibited, like for example, you worked it on Shabbos or you worked it with Koyim. So you might have thought it's prohibited, so therefore you need both cases. Tzricha. Gemara says, is this that? But we have a different source for that. It says, Umiyab ben nechar utekrivu eslechem elokechem mikol elah. So it says from the hands of a ben nechar, you're not allowed to bring. You can't bring an offering from a non-Jew that has any of these disqualifications. But you can bring a sacrificial animal that did work. It's drech. So again, we need it. Well, I might have thought I might have thought you can that you can't bring it as an offering if it did the work when it was sick. Oh, excuse me, chulin, when it was not a sacred animal. But if they did the work after it had already been consecrated, I might have thought it was prohibited. So therefore you need both verses. So says the Gemara, Gufa. We're going to analyze the earlier statement. If you put on the red heifer a bag of straw, basically, it's disqualified. And by the egla rufa, need to pull it. The Gemara challenges this idea that the red heifer is disqualified by carrying a bag, even though you didn't pull it, even though you didn't pull the animal. It says, "Oh, Eliela, oh." I only know that the red heifer is disqualified if you put on it a yoke. I only know if it's disqualified with a yoke. Shara vodos minayin. How do I know if it does any of these other works? It's disqualified. So we say Amras Kavachomer. We learn it from a Kavachomer. Ma egla. Just like this egla rufa, she'imun poselba, that's not disqualified with a defect. Sharavodos, poslos ba, all the other works disqualify it. Para, this red heifer, shemun poselba, which is disqualified with a physical defect. Einodin sharavodos poselba. For sure, the other works will disqualify it. V'imna shachomar. And if you want to say Nemar Khan all the Nemar Lalon all, and if you want to say let's compare the word yoke that appears by the red heifer and by the Egla Rufa, we could say Malalon Shar Vodos Poslos Ba, just like the Egla Rufa, all the works disqualify it. So to here, Afghan Shar Vodos Poslos Ba. So too by the red heifer. So the Gemara says, why do we need two proofs? Mayim Nav Shachomar. What's wrong with the first proof? If you can break it by saying Mawa Agla Shekain Shanam Poslos, so you can't learn out Kavachomer from the Egla Rufa to the Paraduma, because the Paraduma is not disqualified with years. Or Inami Kachi Yachichu. So if that's the case, Kachi will prove it. Shemum Posel Bahen. A mum disqualifies the Kachim, the In Avoda Posel Bahen. but the work does not disqualify the kachim. So therefore, we go to the second explanation. All Never it says all in both places. Just like by the eglah roof, it's other works, not just the yoke. So too here also. So Gemara says when we makam shabata. But why don't we say the same thing? Well, why don't we say just like by the calf, you're only liable once you draw it? So the red heifer, you should only be liable not by putting it on, but by drawing the animal with it. Gemara says Tanaihi. It's a dispute amongst the Tanaim. The Ika demaisi wa me'egla. Some were not from the eglah rufa. The Ika demaisi wa me'gufa b'para. But some were not from the cow itself, from the red heifer. The Tanya all says in the Brisa yoke. All. I only know you're disqualified if you carry the yoke. Sharavodos minayin. How do we know all other services also? Says the verse. El shelo aleh all. That doesn't carry any yoke on it. Mikol makom. Imkei matam or all. So why do you say all? All possible bein b'shas avoda bein b'shelo b'shas avoda. The yoke disqualifies whether or not it's during the time. If it's meant to be working, but sharavodas, but the other activities ain't posted el b'shas avoda. The other activities only disqualify if it was done for a certain activity for actual work. The ema maybe klal. Maybe why don't we say that it doesn't have anything on it? It's general. All is a prat, it's a specific, and then klal prat. Why don't we say the general rule followed by specific? We only apply the specific. It's only liable for a yoke, but not for any other thing. Mar says no. Asher ribuyehu. The word asher is coming to include all other activities. Betanya nami gabe egla ki gavna. We have the Bryce that says a similar thing by the egla rufa. All by egla rufa. It says a yoke. I might think you're only disqualified if it does a yoke. Shara avodas minayin says the verse is sharlo ubadba, that doesn't do any work. Mikol makom imkei matam or all. So why does it say all? All possible bein b'shas avoda bein shelo b'shas avoda. The yoke is always going to disqualify him. Shara avodos ain't supposed to sell b'shas avoda. The other activities only disqualified during the time of the work. Ve'ema sharlo ubadba klal all prat klal prat im klal mashim prat. Maybe we have a general father, but specific. Oh, imidi achruni. Well. So the Gemara says Asher ribuyehu. No, the word Asher means to say all types of work. So Amar Rabbi Avo, by me name Rabbi Yochanan. So now we have the tremendous question. Meshichas o bekama. How much? Have a great day. Have a great day, boys. Shkoyach. Shkoyach. So by me name Rabbi Yochanan. Meshichas o bekama. How much will we say that the eglah roof is disqualified only when you pull the yoke? How much? Excuse me. No. The eglah roof is disqualified only when you pull the oud. But here we're saying that when it puts on the yoke, when you pull the yoke, it disqualifies the eglah roof. So the Gemara wants to know how much do you have to pull it in order for it to be disqualified for the eglah roof. So he says. Kamale all. So you have to pull at the length, the amount of space that the size of the yoke. The length of the yoke or the width of the yoke. No, it's the width of it is a tefach. So why doesn't he just say it's a handbreadth? It's teaching us that the width of a yoke is a tefach. So why do we need to know that? If the guy says, I'm buying a yoke from you, if he sells you something that's smaller than a tefach, the width, he's cheated you. What?
That's small, right? For a yoke, for a cow.
How big is it?
A calf.
This?
I don't know.
Really small.
Okay. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Ben Shulman, Neymar Torah v'egla benacha. Why does so? This answers the question that Bill asked before. Why does the Torah tell us to do this ritual? Neymar Torah v'egla benacha. Why do we have to bring this calf into the wadi? Amar Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yavo Davar Shelo Asa Peiros v'Yaro V'Malkom Shein Asa Peiros. Let the thing which has not produced fruit come and have its necks broken in the place where there is no fruit. And let it be an atonement for the one who was not able to produce fruit. I.e., the symbolism is we're taking something that will never be able to produce fruit and be an atonement for the one who has not produced fruit. My Paris, what are the fruit? It means say fruitful and multiply. Well, if the guy is old, you're saying you don't do it. Ella mitzvos. It's to show this person can no longer produce mitzvos. And so therefore it can't do any more good deeds. So we take something that has not yet produced good deeds and we break its neck to serve as an atonement for that one. So, and we bring him down to the Nachal Eitan. What is Eitan? Kamashmo Kasha. Tanar Rabbanan. Minayim Eitan Shu Kasha. How do we know that the Eitan means hard? Shenemar, as it states on the top of 46b. These dapim this last week of Sotah are very, 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 very long dapim. It says Eitan Moshavecha V'Sim B'Sela Kinecha. So it says the Eitan of your dwelling place and place it in the sela of your nest, which implies that Eitan is something very hard. So Shimu, and so to it states Shimu Hararim Esriv Hashem Va'Eitanim. Most they are. It's listen the mountains to the Riv Hashem, the fights of God, and the Eitanim, the mountains who are the foundations of the earth. How do we know that Eitan means old? As it states, Gai Eitanu, Gai Me Olamhu. It's an old nation. And so therefore, you don't have to take them specifically the Eglon to a hard valley, but rather to an old valley. And you shouldn't bring its earth from another place. You break its neck with a cleaver from behind. My time, because it says oraf by a bird offering, where you also break through the back of the neck. And its place is prohibited to sow and to work forever. Tan Rabbanan asher lo ye aved bo v'lo yizarea l'shavar. A place that was not worked and was not sown in the past. That's Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yonasan says, in the future you won't be able to do it. So Rava Amar Abakli Amalo Pligi. Everybody says you can't do it in the future because it says Lo Yizarea, which means in the future. Ki Pligi Lishavar, whether it was able to be done there in the past. Rabbi Yoshaya Savar Miksiv Lo Yehubad. It doesn't say it couldn't be done. The Rabbi Yonasan, who says Miksiv Asher Lo Ne'avad, meaning to say it doesn't say Lo Ne'avad. It's in the future. So in the past, it's okay. Rabbi Oshaya, why does he say that you can't do it in the past? Asher l'shavar mashma. The word asher implies the past. Rabbi Yonasan, asher ibuye, is coming to tell us, like we saw earlier, that also not just the yoke, but other services are prohibited. If it did anything even beside a yoke, it would be prohibited to use it. And you could and you could comb there the flax and to chisel the stones. I know you can't sow there. How do I know you can't do the other activities? You can't do anything there. So why did it say specifically to sow? Just like sowing is on the ground itself, anything in the ground itself. This comes to exclude the case of flax and stones. They are permitted because they're not on the ground itself. Maybe you can't do anything in air. Specific call prat. I might think only sowing is prohibited from the klal prat. Asher ripuya. The word asher adds on. Then the elders of the city wash their hands. We call ziknei ayir. All the elders of the city come then to wash their hands. The city that's closest to the dead body. They wash their hands on the egla rufa in the wadi. Why does it say ha'arufa? The word ha is extra. They wash their hands on the place where the calf's neck was broken. They said our hands did not spill this blood and our eyes did not see it. All such a base in Shoftim Dam. Do you think that the court would have actually killed them? They didn't come to our hands. We didn't send them away without food. We didn't see them and we didn't send them away without an escort. We force somebody to escort a person. Because the reward for escorting a person after they've come to your home is limitless, as it states, because the guards that were making a siege around Beit El, they saw Ish Yotzei Min Ha'ir. They saw a man leave the city. They said to him, show us where to enter the city. Do for us this kindness, and we will do for you a kindness. It's and he showed them the entrance. What did they do for him? They killed that whole town, but they saved him. As it says, they sent this man to the land of the Chitim, and they built a city. This is the city of Luz till today. And Tanya, what's special about the city of Luz? That they died at Tchelas there. That Sancheirav came to the city, and Sancheirav came to the city, and he did not he didn't send it amongst the nations like he did with the other cities. Nebuchadnezzar came there and he didn't destroy it. But the angel of death has no permission to go into Luz. He can't kill the people there. What do the elders there do? And when they think they're about to die, they go outside the city and they die. This Canaanite who escorted them to actually defeat his town. He taught them how to destroy his town. He didn't speak and he didn't walk. And he caused that all the people of Luz would be saved forever. If somebody actually goes and escorts somebody, how much more so will he be saved? What did this Canaanite show them? He showed them with his mouth, meaning to say, he moved his lips and showed them. Rabbi Yochanan Amar he showed them with his finger. Tanya Kavasa Rabbi Yochanan Mishvil Shekanani Zera Be'etzbo, because he showed them with his finger. Garam Hatzal Lo Zaro Hatzof Padoros. He caused salvation for him and his descendants forever. Somebody's walking along the road and there's nobody to escort him. Yasok Torah. He should engage in Torah, and the Torah will be his escort. So you're walking along your road, it's very dangerous. What should you do? Torah is your escort, as it says, Ki livyas chen hemuroshecha v'anakim l'gagrosecha. Because the escorting of grace is for your head, and v'anakim l'gagrosecha, and they'll be a chain or necklace for your neck. So the Torah is called an escort. Abraham was Paro escorted Abraham 4 steps. On account of those 4 steps, that's why the Jewish people were placed into slavery for 400 years. It says, whoever escorts his friend 4 cubits in the city, then he will not be damaged.
Wait, why is Pharaoh's escorting?
He did this mitzvah of escorting him. As a result of doing this mitzvah of escorting him, he had a merit. That's why he merited.
The Jews suffered.
Yeah. Paro merited. That's why he had the merit. Because the Jewish people had to go into exile for 400 years, but it didn't say they were going to go into Pharaoh. So, yeah, I see that. Baruch Shekavante gave that answer, and that's what Rabbi Yaakov Emden says. So it says, whoever escorts his friend, even 4 amos in the city, that means he won't be damaged. The one who escorts him won't be damaged. And we see that Ravina, Rabbi Bar Yitzchak, Abra Meos Ba'ir, and Matal Yudei Zeka, the Itzio. So Ravina escorted Rabbi Yitzchak 4 amos in the city, and And Rabbi Bar Yitzchak he was in a dangerous situation, but because he was escorted by Ravina, Rabbi Bar Yitzchak was saved. So if you escort somebody, you're going to save him. Tan Rabbanan Harav Talmud Adiburo Shalir. If a Rebbe is escorting a student, he has to take him to the extension of the city. Chavar Chavar Atchum Shabbos. One chavar to another chavar until the 2,000 almost outside the city. Talmud Larav English here, but a student for a Rebbe, there's no limit. Vikama, how much it is? There has to be some limit. Amar Rav Sheshes ad parsa, parsa. Below Amran el Rabba Shena Muvak. We only say this if he's not your dedicated Rebbe. Of a Rabba Muvak, Shosha parsos. So your Rebbe is Muvak, 3 parsos. What?
Rebbe Muvak's allowed to do it.
Rebbe Muvak.
Is that Rebbe Kaim?
What?
Is that Rebbe Kaim that?
He's escorting the Rebbe Muvak. He has to escort him all the way up until 3 parsecs. If the student is escorting the Rebbe Muvak who came to visit him, then or he's in his town, he has to escort him up to 3 parsecs. Rav Kahane, Rav Shimi Barashi. What?
You can extrapolate this. I mean, it has meaning beyond actually how many steps you take with the person, right? It has to do with relationships.
Yeah.
They're inherent.
But it also is literally, you can't, if somebody comes to your house, you have to escort them, literally.
This particular price just seems that like the teacher's obligation to the student is a certain, you have a certain amount of obligation. A
Right.
friend has a larger obligation. Really, a friend is obligated to take someone to the full limit that you can go, and a student
Beautiful.
teacher is unlimited, right?
Shkoyach.
Always follow them.
Yeah, very, very beautiful. Jeff is always so sharp. Shkoyach, shkoyach, shkoyach. Rav Kahane, Rav Shimi Barashi, Mipum Nahara, Beitzinita, the Baba. Rav Kahane escorted Rav Shimi from until the place that was called the palm trees of Babylon. Kimato Asam Amalei Vada Damriso Anitinata di Baba Mishnei Adam Arishon Isnu. He said, "Oh, I came to this place in Babylon. These palm trees clearly were from Adam, initial Adam. Amalei Atgar Milsa. You reminded me of something. Damar Biosi Rabbi Chanina Maidach said Be'eretz Lo Avar." That this was it says in Jeremiah, you're going to go into the land where nobody is gone. Why does the verse have to say nobody sat there if nobody ever went there? The only lands that were settled were the lands that it was decreed that Adam would settle them. Mihegronja ad Beit Kipi. Reb Mordechai escorted Rav Ashi from Hegronya until Beit Kipi. V'Amrulei ad Beidura. Some say until Beidura. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Meir, Kol she'eino milava. Whoever does not escort somebody, mislava. Even though even though this person is escorted by other people, he would show fichtamim. It's like you killed him. Shamali vu anshe Yericho Elisha. Because if the people of Yericho had only escorted Elisha, well, Gera Dubim Latinokos, then the bears would not have killed the young children. Because what happened was when Elisha was leaving Yericho, the children were making fun of him, they were taunting at him, they were harassing him, and so as a result of that, Elisha sent bears against them, and they killed the children. So we see from here that if they had only escorted him, then wouldn't have had this tragedy. As it states, Vayal Misham Beitel, that Elisha went up to Beitel, and he was walking along the road, and the Aram Kitanam Yatzum in Ayar Veitkal Subo. And the young men went out of the city, and they attacked him. They harassed him, and they say, Vayomru lo alei kereach, alei kereach. What does that mean? Omrim lo alei, go up, shekrachta. You made this place bold. You made this place bold. And as a result of that, they called Yericho to be bold. And as a result of this, Elisha attacked them. What does it mean, Narim Ketanim? What does that mean? My Narim Ketanim, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Shem Minuarim in mitzvahs. They were deficient of mitzvahs. Ketanim Shayu Mikatnei Amunah. They were of little faith. Tana Na'arim Ayu. And they were actually lads. Bizbazu Atzman Ketanim. They acted like children. Maskefar Rav Yosef, Damal Shem Mekoma. Maybe they came from the place. that was called Na'arim. Milo ksiv aram yatsu gidudim leishbu me'eretz Yisrael na'ara ketana v'kashu on na'ara uketana, which is Sheba Amar Abidas Ketana the Menuran. We see it was a place Menuran. Whereas it's Hasam Mefarish Makoma, but here Hacham Mefarish Makoma. Here we say that they went out from Yericho. Vayifan acharav vayereim, and it's vayikaleim b'shem Hashem. And Elisha looked after them and he cursed them in the name of God. Mara, what did Elisha say? Amarav Ra Mamish. He actually looked at them. He didn't curse them. He just stared at them with like Superman eyes. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, wherever the sages put their eyes, you're in trouble. Miso only get either death or poverty. Shmuel says, we saw that all of them have become impregnated from their mother on Yom Kippur. We saw that they had haircuts like the Amoreans, that they grew their haircuts like the pagans. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Rosh so they had no mitzvah, no even scent of a mitzvah. But maybe their children would. So they would never have any mitzvahs, not them or their offspring, forever and ever and ever. Obviously, very, very long daf. We did it very quickly, so it takes a lot of time. Each word here is gold that you need to immerse yourself in, go over many, many times to feel the full strength of this daf. Yeshakov to everyone.